On the following podcast, I sat down actually with not one guest, but two guests. Trish Attia, who was my mentor for a very, very long time, and Gitty Greenwald. And we talked about, I'm a lot of breath now. We talked about breathwork, but really, really, really in depth, and somatic and IFS. We got very, very deep. There was a lot of sensitivity and beauty in the conversation. You'll find out much more by listening to the podcast. Please, to help with the algorithm, please like and follow and subscribe, and so we get the message out and spread goodness in the world. Thank you and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
Okay, so we're sitting here with Gitty Greenwald and Trish Attia, my Rebbe, that the world already knows. But I didn't get to meet Gitty, so I'm very excited. We get to talk a little bit. I want to start with with a question right off the bat, which is, and we'll see where it goes, but the question I have is, it seems like nowadays there seems to be like a revolution towards back to the body. Meaning with therapy as I knew it and when we studied it and when we started was like psychodynamic was like what we did, and psychoanalysis was already going out a little bit. I remember when you started training me, that's kind of where we were at, and it was like all brain and figuring it out and thinking about it. And then lately, I just had on my last podcast was a breathwork guy, and I've had Mayor K, who's a breathwork guy, but it's not just breathwork, but the somatic. Trish, you've been talking about somatic to me for forever, and I went to a somatic therapist myself, and it was it's like we're all coming back to the body. As someone who is not a practitioner of this, I'm asking, both you guys could take the question, but like on a broader scope, why are we going back to the body? What is happening here that we're realizing something was missing, and we're missing out on something's missing, and for some reason we have to go back to the body? And that's the question I have, and it's on a premise that's what's happening. If you agree with that premise, what do you think?
What do you think, Trish?
Why are we going back?
Because healing is in the body.
You have to explain that.
Well, I think talk therapy obviously has its place. It's not that people are silent in the room when we're not doing somatic work. But I think healing, a lot of trauma, everybody deals with trauma, is people need to heal, right? And
Right.
So I have not found that words are healing. And I think that God gave us everything we need to heal ourselves. Our job as clinicians is to figure out how to help people heal themselves. And I think breath is a significant piece of that healing.
Right. Okay, so Gitty, maybe we'll ask you what, to follow up on what Trish is saying, unless you disagree with it. But it doesn't fully answer my question because I don't really understand what's happening. What is happening in the body, and what is happening with the breath? And
so I'll tell you how I see it. I can't tell you how it's happening universally, but I can tell you my experience of it, right? I think that the mind is very powerful and very necessary. It's actually the way consciousness comes into the humans, right? But what we need to recognize, and what people are starting to recognize more and more, is that there are three aspects to being human. There's the mind, there's the body, and there's a soul, right? So until now, we talked a lot about what's in the mind, and that was a great way. That was, we went from absolutely nothing, trauma doesn't exist, emotional issues it's not an issue, we don't talk about it, it's not happening, right? And then kind of like when Freud came in, the beginner, when it all started out, it was about understanding mind, but what's really going on and what's happening with mental illness and why are people going through this, and after the Holocaust and all the traumas, we needed to understand it first on a mind level, right? Once we got it, and once society got it on a mind level, that was like step one. Like we need a narrative. But then people weren't even really feeling better. They got it. They knew their story. They can write a book. They could write chapters of their book. They can sit in front of you and say, and this happened and that happened. But they weren't feeling better.
Right. I would say like one of it, like almost like a joke we used to say, and I think we still say, is like, you're on the couch with psychoanalysis, you were on the couch 3-4 times a week, and it'd be an hour or two at a time. And 25 years later, you know what's wrong with you.
Exactly.
But no one's better.
Right.
Like,
so when
now I know.
Right. So when we started realizing that, that's kind of when things started shifting to there's more to it. There's more to healing than just understanding your story. There's more to just the story. At some point, we need to heal from the story. In order to heal, it's kind of like asking, why is it important to go back home? Our body is our home. Our body is the container for our soul. This is where our soul lives. From when we come down into this world and we take our first breath, the soul anchors in the body, and the mind is kind of the mediator between the body and the soul. Kind of, that's the way I see it, right?
Right. So just to break it down, the mind is different than the body or the soul? Like,
yeah.
where does that fit in? Like the mind is another thing?
The mind is our consciousness. Our soul is our home, is our container.
Okay.
Right? And our body is our container.
Our body's a container.
Right?
I was
And
thinking
then-
the mind was part of the body.
Well, it technically is a part of the body, but we can be in our mind and not in our body, which tells you that it's two separate entities. I can sit in my mind and I can talk to you from up here and be completely dead down here.
Gotcha.
Right? How many of our clients walk in and they're talking to us and they're telling us how angry and upset and sad they are, but it's like head up.
Right.
From neck up. They're not moving. They're not feeling. If you ask them, where do you feel that inside? They're like, I don't know where inside is, right? So they're not living in their body. And this is what we've learned through somatic understanding and somatic experiencing, is that you need to feel it to heal it. There's no way to talk your way through a feeling. There's no way to talk your way through trauma. You need to allow yourself to experience it and have a corrective experience with it so that your nervous system can calm down and say, all right, it's over. I'm here now. So that's where a lot of the somatic therapy came in, where people weren't healing. They weren't feeling better. And once they're able to drop in, connect on a deeper level, reach higher consciousness, which is soul level, they're starting to find meaning and purpose. And technically speaking, Viktor Frankl spoke about finding meaning. That's kind of soul level stuff, right? He spoke about that years ago. So that's kind of what's happening, is that we're coming around and we're looking at the full holistic approach. It's not that, we're going from mind to body. We're just finally coming around and seeing that there's more to it. There's more to it. There's a way to have a full holistic healing. And then that's where transformation happens.
Okay, so let me go. Let me talk about healing. And Trish, you want to step in also? But the word healing is thrown around often as an idea, and I will say, even though I'm deeply involved in the healing of the world and the people, I have become very cynical when people tell me they're healed. So like, where would we define healing, or what is healing? I will tell you from my side, like I believe, and you tell me this is different. I actually have been teaching the people that I'm with that it's really not. You are already better. You are already healed, and what our job is to figure out how to take off all the garbage so that we could feel it and experience it. So you're talking about the soul level. Mm-hmm. On the soul level, and I think Dick Schwartz talks about this as like the true you, but on the soul level, you're all right. And now there's all this gook on top of you, and you got to figure out how to take it off. That's kind of the way I'm experiencing the world of, like, with addiction and healing, like in that sense. So when I'm talking about healing, I don't really understand, like if I'm already better. So you could disagree with that, but I'm saying if I'm already better, I'm not healing. I'm just recognizing that I'm healed. I don't know if this fits into the way you guys see it, but I don't know what healing means. I've become like, a little cynical. So tell me more about
So I can talk a little bit about the IFS, which is when you mentioned Dick Schwartz, right?
Right.
That's IFS. So right, the
Richard
self,
Schwartz for the Jewish
Richard
podcast.
Schwartz, right? So there's, according to Richard Schwartz and us, there's the self, the neshama, and it's pure, and it's healed. Going along with what you said, it has everything it needs. We don't have to go look for it. We don't have to have an identity crisis to come out of it and find it. It's there. And trauma and other life events, emotional neglect, developmental neglect, all of these things that, people suffer from, add these layers that you're talking about, parts that Richard Schwartz talks about.
Right.
And we could say, if we're looking at healing, that as the parts settle down and become advisors and they don't take over anymore, preventing access to the self and the neshama, that could be healed.
Right. So is it, I want to tell you guys something interesting. They made me make a speech in Shul this Shabbos. So it was against my will. They nominated a different person to speak in my Shul. So I was looking at the parsha, this parsha of Yosef. And I looked in, I saw something absolutely beautiful. And I really want to tell you because it felt like IFS to me. So, but basically, Yosef is, talk about trauma. He's like the highest level of trauma. Everything happened to him, neglect, abuse. I mean, every single thing, complete rejection from his family and then getting thrown around in prison. And he was just horrible. Mm-hmm. And the people who did it to him are standing right in front of him, which is kind of the fantasy of anybody who gets hurt. Like, now what do I say? Like, and he says, the Torah says that he cleared the room, and he sent everybody out, and then he spoke to them. And when he spoke to them, he spoke from like a higher place, where he basically said, "You think you threw me in slavery? It had nothing to do with that. That was God. God set that up, so I should be here to set up a place for you guys to come." Like, he was able to like completely elevate beyond, which I thought was awesome. But then when I saw it, I never saw it because as a kid, we always learned he cleared the room so he didn't embarrass his brothers. So he cleared out all of his advisors, and they sent them out. That's this time I looked at it because Trish has been teaching me so nicely. He cleared all the protectors, cleared everything inside of him, was telling him that he was hurt from this and hurt from that and hurt from that, and all the things that told him how much pain he's in. And he was able to like elevate and all of a sudden see that true self in the depth. I was sharing that because you're just mentioning the
Love that.
and
It's beautiful.
And if you want to go ahead.
Keep going, add to it,
No,
please.
it's so powerful that if you're using this to describe this, he then said, "Ani Yosef, I am Yosef," and that's really what you're saying when you tell the person you are healed. You're saying you are pure. You're here. You're here. Ani Yosef, myself is here. Right?
It's beyond the people
That's
in the room.
beyond everybody. No matter what
I
happens
just
to
got
me,
chills.
no matter all those layers that are there,
Right.
I, myself, my core is pure, and I'm here. Right?
Right.
And that's why he was able to do what he did and not be revengeful and not get angry. Instead of externalizing what it was like, but I'm okay. I'm whole. So when you're talking about, when you say to your clients, you're healed, you're basically saying to them, you're pure, your self is good, you're strong. Ani Yosef, I am here. Right? Now what we need to figure out is what happened from when your soul chose to come down on earth, right? Came down for an experience. It came, we think that that our life here is the experience. Really, our life there is our experience. We're coming in here just to experience something so we can understand ourselves better. It's like a chapter in our story, right? We're so much greater than this lifetime, right? So when we come down here, we have a journey, we have a mission. We know exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it. We choose our family, we choose our place, we choose our antagonists. We choose who's going to annoy us. We choose everything. And then we come down here to play for the play, and we have our cast of characters here, right? And different things get in the way of our journey, of us accomplishing and doing what we've come down here to do. And that's healing. Healing is in learning and understanding what's getting in the way of me being self, of me. Why can't I be my highest and best, right? And I agree with you that what is healing? Is there ever an end? Am I ever really healed? I've been journeying for over 20 years. I'm not healed. But what I find is that I am healed. Why am I healed? Not because life doesn't hurt sometimes, not because it's not difficult, not because I still sometimes have to deal with really hard emotions. Healed is not about I won't have. This is where I feel like so many people have this misconception. They think healing means that I won't feel pain. Healing means that I won't be upset anymore. They think healing means that I'm going to be completely numb. That's not healing. Healing is that I will feel fully. I will have deep, meaningful experiences, whether they're painful or whether they're open-hearted and wonderful. And I will be able to tolerate it. I will be able to move through it. It's not going to drive me crazy. I'll be able to breathe my way through it and pain is not a bad thing. Pain is the only way to pleasure is through pain. If you think about anything meaningful in your life, if we don't go through the pain of it, the birth of a child, there's always something that we need to go through in order to come to that place of the pleasure and the joy. But we're so afraid of pain. We're so afraid of experiencing heavy emotion, strong emotion, that we
Why do you
avoid it.
think we are so afraid of pain? This is actually going into my wheelhouse, so I'm getting some
Yeah.
more advice. Why are we afraid of we all know that. Like what you just said, I think on an instinctive level, everybody knows that pain and joy and all, it's all part of one thing.
Right, and if you
we all
can't
know
feel
that.
pain, then you can't feel joy. You
Right.
can't pick and choose which feeling you're going to feel.
Right. Kind of everybody knows
Yeah.
that on an instinctive level. But when it comes, like it seems, and I don't know if it's more nowadays than it was in the past. I have some thoughts on my own. But why are people so wrapped up in the pain that it's so bad? Like what is happening there that it seems like the tolerance for pain is almost gone.
Yeah,
We have
first
no
of all, I don't think
tolerance.
it's more now than it was. I think we just have a lot more awareness and a lot more labels for it.
Okay.
So we're able to communicate about it. We got through all the mind stuff, so now we can talk about what's happening inside. So it's not like our ancestors didn't have pain. They had terrible traumas and pain. But there was no space for expression. There was no space. We have this luxury of actually talking about our pain, which our grandparents didn't necessarily have.
But I mean, I've heard lectures actually. Zachariah Wallace used to say, "You're very close to Zachariah Wallace."
Yeah.
Used to have a thing where he like a little bit idealized his like Marine. I think his father was like in the Marines or something, and he said like he came from a time period where you just assumed that life was difficult. Didn't really you didn't. And some people say, oh, they were really just suffering silently. But I think if the assumption is life is difficult, then when difficult things come, you don't have an expectation of an easy load coming your way, then you don't actually feel it in the same way. But you're saying it's not really like that.
I hear this concept of he definitely he's right. If you're looking at a child that grew up in a very difficult home with a lot of pain and trauma, and that's all they know, that's kind of their expectation. And then if somebody comes in and they're really nice and kind and gentle, they don't trust them because like this is not normal, right? So there is that concept of when you're just growing up in so much pain and trauma, you think pain and trauma is the way of life,
Right.
right? And then you just like, but it's not because you can tolerate better. You just don't know better. You just think this is it. But I think it's important to understand that we're not there anymore. We're not there, and we're moving into higher consciousness, and we're moving into more godliness. Our level, it's shifting. The world is shifting, right? So this is not working anymore because the pain and the trauma is separating us from our spirit, from our soul, and our soul is and our godliness. So this is it's over. It's not working. People want to feel better. People believe that they can do better. There's much more hope. They don't want to suffer anymore. It's done. That concept of like, too bad, this is life, surrender, we're hopeless.
Schwer zu sein, Yid.
Yeah, it's over. It's not schwer zu sein, Yid. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's incredible when we can really connect from a place of true love and passion. And all this talk of like, Holocaust survivors, it's only because they did well, and because nobody was busy, validating them, and that's why they got through it and they built beautiful families. Well, guess what? We're the result of that, and we're all in therapy, for crying out loud.
For crying.
So like, we're the generation.
It's so interesting you saying this, because I have this feeling whenever people talk about marriage. And I'm very into my marriage and other people's marriages too. But Trish knows.
He's got an amazing marriage.
I hope. But
You do.
But when people describe marriage, the first thing they go to is it's hard. Marriage is hard. And I'm saying, like, that's where you started? You're starting there? You're like starting from this like negative perspective of like it's difficult. You're saying we're at a time period where we walk in and be like, marriage is amazing. There are difficulties, and then we have to figure out how to manage them, how to work with them. But even coming in, I like what you're saying. It's a very like, because there's a lot of looking down upon people that are like, I want everything. But I think our spirit wants everything.
Yeah.
I had this thought the other day about addicts, which is like, it occurred to me. I was literally driving to the house with all these addicts. And I'm like, they're right and we're wrong. And like, it occurred to me, it's like an addict is very, very deeply connected to their spirit and to their child. That I call addicts are big babies. And their biggest statement is, it's not fair. I want to feel good all the time. I want someone to hold me and take care of me. That's their thought. And you're like, grow up. Stop being such a big fat baby. And then you realize, like, your spirit knows that you're supposed to have every single thing. There's no reason you're supposed to suffer and all that. You're supposed to literally be able to cleave to the Lord and connection to the divine and oneness. And like, a baby knows that truth. And then we forget it, and we tell them, hey, stop.
Yeah.
You know, so that's...
I think there's also even more to it. So I also have clients, sometimes they'll tell me, it's so hard, right? And I think that we need to kind of take the label off of hard. Hard is not bad. So it's hard. And it's hard to raise a child, but it's wonderful. It's hard to go to school, but then you have your career. Anything in life that's worth it is hard. But why is that bad?
Right.
Like, we made hard into like a negative energy. Yeah, marriage can be hard, but it's a good kind of hard.
Right.
It's the kind of hard that gives you what you want. So, like, if we can just like, the same thing with pain. Pain is as hard as our mind. It's not, pain is as difficult. Yeah, it's painful. Yeah, it hurts. And stay with that pain, stay with that hurt. Allow yourself to move through it. Validate it for yourself. Show up for yourself. Show self-love, self-kindness. And then God was in pain when God is in pain for us too. If God can feel pain, why can't we feel pain?
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get down to specifics
what I'm trying to say is that we label things as good or bad. And then when it comes up, we either accept it or reject it. And how about if we just neutralized it and just said, oh, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it is hard. And tell me more.
So what do we do with the good?
What do you mean?
If we're neutralizing everything, does that mean also
but
that
even good is because even good is subjective.
I know it's subjective, but I feel sometimes, I will tell you that I do a practice of meditation, and it's about everything that's coming at me, I allow it to be. And it's very similar to what we just allow it to be. I'm not chasing it out. I just allow to be, and I sit within myself and allow it to be. I will tell you, the fascinating thing is that I get a tremendous amount of amazing thoughts. And many meditations have been cut short because I have to stop and write it down, because it's like, even the good thoughts I have to allow to be. I can't, it can't just be the bad thoughts.
Right.
So it's interesting because what you're saying is like the hardship, we have to like, hey, let's neutralize it. It's hard, but does that mean we neutralize the good also? Like if I'm enthralled, excited about something, I should be like, hey, it's just excited.
You can, in the same way, we need to feel it to heal it when it comes to pain.
Right.
We should give ourselves the time to really experience our joy.
Okay. So we're not trying to
We're
water
not
it down.
devaluing it.
We feel the pain.
You feel the pain. We feel
Gotcha,
the joy.
okay,
What I'm saying is like, it's not, feelings are neither good nor bad. They're just emotions. They're energies. And we should experience whatever it is fully, whatever it is. And then it just makes our life so much richer. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't feel it, because if good is allowed and pain is not allowed, nothing is ever forever. We can have a really amazing good feeling today, and tomorrow I might not feel so good. And then what? I'm not Ani Yosef anymore. I'm not myself anymore. Right? So it's the wave. It's the wave. And we need to take the energy and the labels off of emotion and just see it for what it is and experience life fully, no matter what it is. That's kind of what I'm saying.
I love it. Okay, Trish, this is very fascinating for me because Trish has been my teacher for years, and you're Trish's teacher. So you're like my grandma
right.
here.
I think that we teach each other.
Okay, all right. That's true. Maybe that's happened with us too.
Yes.
So what led you to like you came from a long way. Like I'm watching, and I kind of asked you this last time we were talking also, but
Right.
And what I'm always amazed by with you is that you're always constantly wanting to know more and learning, and I think that's awesome. It's way more than I do. It's like I'm like, I know enough. What do I need to know more for? I got it. But you're always like discovering, but like when you hit this somatic stuff and when you hit this IFS and then this breathwork stuff, what's happening here that you're seeing the difference between the work you used to do and the work you're doing now? And is there any overlap, or it's like gone with the old, in with the new? You hear the questions?
I do. So, a quick refresher on my journey, most recent journey, was that I had taken the IFS maybe 8 years ago, something like that. And I had taken somatic experiencing before or after that. And then I tried to fit them together. And then one day I saw something called somatic IFS and realized somebody else had done this. And when I went to my first training for somatic IFS, it was my first really deep experiential training. And so part of the answer to your question is that it was extremely powerful for me. And I thought, well, if it's extremely powerful for me and I can transmit this, then this would be fantastic for my clients. Since I've been working with survivors of incest and childhood sexual abuse for 45 years, I've seen a real evolution. And I just saw people staying in so much pain that I pushed myself to find something that would be helpful for them. And somatic work took everything to a different level. And somatic IFS provided people with the ability, and this a little bit goes back to your question about feeling, because a lot of survivors have stopped feeling a long, long time ago. And that's why they're afraid of it. Because think about the lose-lose situation. They're not feeling their feelings, so they're getting buried. Their system doesn't have any way of metabolizing feelings because no feelings are coming up. And so then you say to them after 20 years of not feeling feelings, I don't understand. What's wrong with you? Why are you afraid of your feelings? They are petrified. Their protectors have done a fabulous job at keeping everything at bay. So it's very, very scary. And then we saw some types of therapy that imploded people, and their feelings came soaring to the surface and were devastating for people. And so the somatic work, from what I've seen, somatic IFS is a gentle way of helping people feel again without it overwhelming them. And one of the practices of somatic IFS is breath. And so when I heard about Gitty's breath work, I thought this is a way of even deepening that. And breath is so natural. And breath is everything we do all day. And so it made so much sense to me. And then I had the experience myself, continued to get the experience from Gitty and supervision. And to be able to give this to my clients and to watch miraculous change, it's such a gift.
Can you tell me more about that miraculous change? I don't.
Like examples of miraculous
Maybe,
change?
yeah. You have any examples? I don't know if you're allowed to share examples.
Sure. I can say that, there was a client, as most sexual abuse survivors do, they have a lot of shame. And after a breathwork session, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, then they came back about 3 days later for their regular session. And I said, have you noticed anything shift? And the client said, well, not that much, except I'm not really feeling shame anymore. So to me, that's a miracle.
Yeah.
Because we all know what shame is like. We've all felt it, and we all know what it's like.
Right. So the truth is, I keep touching on breath work, like different places. People seem to be very into it, and it seems to be going from the weekend warrior kind of someone who like got training 15 minutes to like what you are, like sophisticated, teaching other therapists what to do with breath work and everything in the middle, and there's I see a lot of celebrity breath workers, kind of like they're just out there, they got like fit bodies and like six packs, and they're like banging drums and I don't know if that's breath work the same way you're thinking about it, but what exactly is obviously everybody seems to be working on a lot of levels, but what exactly is happening during breath work? How is breath work bringing us into our body? What is breath work? Mm-hmm. If I never experienced it at all, I've experienced it a little bit. If I've never experienced it at all, I'd be like, I breathe all day. I don't understand what you're talking about at all. Could you take it to like someone who never heard of this?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Right. So I'm going to tell you that by nature, I'm a realist, and I don't believe in miracles, even though there are so many miracles around us. But I think that I do believe in miracles. Let me rephrase that. I don't believe in magic. That's the word. That's the word.
Could I say a thing about miracles? That I actually am unimpressed by God miracles. God is miracles. That's what he is. Somebody tells a God miracle, I'm like, wow, that's so good. When I hear a human miracle, that's when I get excited.
Yeah, well, human miracles are godly miracles. We're just the co-creators, so.
Right. So, but I'm saying when it's like, God split the sea. Big deal.
Yeah.
That's his
He
job.
made the sea.
But God didn't split the sea before one person had the courage to say split it.
That was the miracle.
And I think that's the miracle.
Right.
The miracle is that someone co-created that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that we as humans need to understand, is that we're co-creators and that we have free will, and that God won't interfere with our free will. So he won't just create a miracle unless we ask for the miracle. And we create it. We co-create miracles. We are godly. We are a part of God, right? And people don't realize that. So just on a side note,
I liked it.
Yeah.
But you were talking about breath work.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I do believe that we can create miracles for ourselves. And if we believe it, it's already happened. Yeah. We can create our own healing. We can create our own process. We can manifest what we want. If we really believe it, that's how powerful we are. And God wants to give it to us. He wants to. He's just waiting for us to request it. You want it? Take it. It's yours. Right? But I don't believe in magic. And I think that any modality out there that promises you healing and that this is the magic, if you do this, you're going to be healed and you're going to be great, run from it. Don't believe it. Don't trust it. It's a scam. I love breathwork. I teach breathwork. I studied breathwork. But I don't believe it's magic. I think that breathwork is a great modality when it's a part of a therapeutic process. Just having that breathwork experience is wonderful. And you might have this epiphany and this clarity and this like catharsis, and you're feeling like, oh my goodness, life is great, boom, boom, bang. But give it 2 weeks and you're back to where you started, unless you take that experience into therapy and process it and say, what am I going to learn from this? How can I integrate this into my life? I got this tremendous clarity. How am I going to use this? And if you're not using it, it's a waste of energy. It's a waste of, breath work is not easy. It's work. It's breath work for a reason. People work really hard and they have such deep, emotional, powerful processes. They get in touch with hard feelings, memories that really hurt. It takes so much courage. When I hold space with someone in breath work, I'm humbled. I never got used to it, and I've taken thousands of people through the process, and I still, every time I walk away and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is sacred. This is godly, right? And to take someone through that process and then not help them integrate it afterwards and make it useful in their life, I think it's wrong. I think it's unethical. Like, I personally will not do breath work with someone if they're not in therapy.
Oh, wow.
That's like a question.
So what does the integration look like? What does that look like?
Tell me about your experience. What happened? And, how is that a theme in your life? How is that a pattern? How does that play out in your life, with your wife, with your children, with your friends? What can you learn from this? How can you create change? With my own clients, I won't let them go through another breathwork session unless I feel that they really got the most out of that experience. And breathwork is pretty powerful in that it'll bring up whatever's there. It's like it's your own medicine. It's your own breath. So your breath knows you. It's your own consciousness, right? It's your own subconscious. So it'll bring up your patterns. And sometimes it's like, it doesn't even feel like anything happened. Like the client will say, oh, nothing happened. I couldn't focus. I couldn't. And I'll just look at them and say, and tell me how that's a theme in your life. And they'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, just because you're doing breath work doesn't mean that your experience will be different if this is your pattern. Maybe we can try to go in again, and this time set an intention to work on the focusing, to allow, to trust, to release, to surrender to the process, to surrender to your own breath. And then that becomes a new way of working. So now we're healing. Now we're really going under, we're picking up patterns, we're understanding things about life. Or people with attachment wounds, and what they want in the session, what comes up in the session. And it's all patterns. I can watch someone in a breathwork session. I don't necessarily know their story. I'm not psychic like that. But I can right away say like, all right, here we go. And I'll say certain things to them just by watching them breathe. And it's 99% on target.
Right.
Right? Because we all repeat our patterns. We all have our stuff. Now, when we're doing a psychedelic thing,
right,
and we're at the mercy of the medicine, whatever comes. You don't know what's going to come. Your breath is natural.
I mean, I think psychedelics also bring up what's inside you.
Always. We can't squeeze lemon out of an orange, right?
But I'm glad you brought up psychedelics because I have a question in this. Because it's interesting because I've been known as I've gotten in trouble, some people, for promoting too much psychedelic stuff. But I'm really not a promoter of psychedelics. I am a discusser of psychedelics and everything else. But that being said, I have one of my biggest issues with psychedelics is that it usually has a massive eureka moment. Like it just like opens you up, opens your heart, opens your soul. Like, I got all the answers. And then you do the work. If you do the work, it's good. What I see is people fall in love with that eureka moment. They want to go back to it.
They want the high.
They want the excitement. I don't want to call it high because I don't want to limit it. I think it's a very special experience, and even highs are a very special experience. So I don't really want to go there.
It's not a negative.
Right. Not as negative, but I feel like high gets a negative. But meanwhile, I'm not really saying that. But I'm saying like they become like enticed by the tool, not by like this tool helps you do this. So that's been an issue of mine, and I've had to deal with that because there's so much beauty in it, and there's a question of what happens to it. So is there with breath work a similar kind of eureka moment, and is this something that we have to be careful about not doing too often, so that people, because I know people that go back to breath work all the time, and it looks to me very similar than people going back to ayahuasca or ibogaine, or like it. To me, as an outsider, because I'm not usually chasing this, I do this very, very not often. It looks a little similar. So, like, what are the thoughts on that idea? Like, is this something that opens us on that level, or is this something we should be doing every week, or how does?
Right. So I don't encourage it every week. So let me just back it up a little. Right. Let me back this up. I think it's a great question you're asking, and
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the question. When I found breath work originally, I had a eureka moment. It was so powerful. I knew I'm going to learn this, and I didn't know I was going to train people in it, but I knew that I need to bring this into the community. When I took my training, I trained with a wonderful person. I have tremendous hakaras hatov to him. I think that he really taught me a lot. But I had an issue with it. My issue with it was that it was not therapeutic enough. Because of this reason, I felt like it was great and it was powerful but where was the therapy in it? Where was the actual deepening and the actual healing in it? Now, I feel like the part that we need to differentiate here, there are different kind of people that we're looking at. If we're looking at a person who went through severe trauma in their life, and like Trish was saying, was never able to feel anything, and their feelings were so shut down, a person who's shut down is not alive. Their bodies are not here. They're just a soul hovering above their body. They're just not here, right? So they're not really living. They don't have experiences. They don't experience pain. They don't experience joy. They experience nothing. They're kind of walking around like robots, right? And you take a person like that, and they're in therapy for years trying to get in touch with something. They're feeling so dead, so not alive. And their therapists are doing talk therapy and trying to get them to talk and talk and talk, and they're talking, but they're still not feeling good about themselves. And then they go for an experience, whether it's a psychedelic experience or a breathwork experience. And for the first time in their life, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling something, right? It's exciting. It's exciting. And in their mind, they believe that this is the only way I can ever feel, the only way I can ever get to a state of feeling, it feels wonderful to feel, even if it's a painful feeling, even if they're bawling their eyes out because they're terrible memories that are coming up, but it feels so good to cry. It feels so good to get it out of your system. But they don't know that there's a way to sit in that emotion in a therapy session because no one's holding that space for them in that kind of a way, right?
Right.
So they're excited about it, so they'll keep going back to it. So it's not an addiction per se. They're just really, they want to feel alive, right? Now, if they have someone who understands psychedelic integration or breathwork integration, and breathwork is a psychedelic experience. When they came up with this process, what's his name again? Graf. When Graf came up with the process of breathwork, he was an LSD researcher. He worked with LSD, which is a psychedelic, and when that became illegal, he came up with this process of breathing in a way that brought people to psychedelic states. And it does bring people. I've had people who did psychedelics in the past, and they come to my breathwork, and they're like one person said to me, oh my gosh, that's like psychedelics without psychedelics. And some people find it even more powerful because they feel like it's very controlled and they can really feel into that in a way that they feel like it's their process, which makes it so powerful. It's not like the medicine is taking me, it's I'm taking myself, taking back control and all that. So For those people, I really understand. I really have tremendous compassion for their experience. But if they can work with someone who really understands that, and in session, this is what I teach a lot. I don't only teach how to do a breathwork session. I learn only how to do a breathwork session. When I went out and did a ton of research on it and how to combine breathwork with somatics, with a whole clinical lens and talk therapy and EMDR and IFS, when I went out to research, how am I going to combine this to turn this into a clinical practice? Right? I'm a therapist. I sit in the office like this with my clients. I'm not putting everyone on the floor and breathing with them. I do sometimes, but not everyone. And I developed technique on how to use the breath to deepen and to connect. And what I've come to see is this. What I've come to learn is that a client that's not breathing correctly is not getting better. It's as simple as that. It's like it all comes down to the breath.
You're saying breathing correctly in your regular life?
Just
or
noticing,
in those sessions?
Just take a moment with me right now, right?
All
right. Yeah, just let's take a minute. Let's all three take a minute, right? Just a moment, like literally a minute, we'll time it. Of just being,
as long as you want.
Just being
If they made it this far into the pod, they're gonna listen.
Yeah, just taking a moment to like being aware of your breath. I don't want you to do anything, just your natural breath. Just close your eyes and just sense into your breath, right? Just the inhale and the exhale. And just noticing where the breath goes as it moves in and it falls out. Right? Just sensing to any tension inside. Yeah. You might notice a feeling, an emotion, a sensation. Stillness. And then take a deep breath in. Hold it at the top and release it with a sigh. And just come back, and whenever you're ready, just open your eyes and come back in.
Okay. I mean, I was very focused on Micah falling down the steps. So
Yeah.
Skipping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
sorry.
So I'm saying is that so many of our clients cannot do this.
Cannot do what that was.
Yep.
Cannot do it.
What did I do? I just breathed.
Right,
Exactly.
they can't breathe. When you tell them, just notice their breath, they'll say no. Because they subconsciously know that the moment they get in touch with their breath, they're going to have feelings. The moment they get in touch with their breath, they're going to drop inside. And they've been running for themselves forever. Now, a client that's not breathing is not feeling. They're not experiencing life fully. Breath is...
So what would happen? What would happen?
They walk...
They would... I mean, I started breathing, and let's say it was a minute or something. I was laughing because I heard skipping down the steps.
Right.
Go get a chair. Go get a chair.
Do you know how many clients can't breathe
Oh,
for
you
a
can
minute?
sit. Oh, you gotta knock things over. Hold on. If you can sneak in, you can sit there. You can sneak in.
He's
We
gonna
just
find
had
a
a
way.
Brazilian
He's gonna find a
jiu-jitsu
way.
guy. If he
Use
doesn't know
use
how
your
to
feathers,
sneak
your
in,
wings.
just don't move that camera. Ooh. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Do you know how many clients cannot breathe for 1 minute consciously?
Well, what happens? They
They-
just stop. They
they're-
freak
they're-
out. They
they're-
open their eyes.
They're chest breathing. They look like they're breathing, but they're coming into your session anxious, they're stressed out, they have depression, anxiety, panic. What is that? That's lack of breath. When we're not breathing fully, right? When a baby is born, you watch a baby breathe, what happens? Their stomach rises and falls. It's inhale and exhale, and they're calm, right? What trauma does to the person is that, imagine yourself hearing something frightening and scary. What do?
Right.
It catches the breath. Now imagine someone who has all their life. At some point, they're just doing this. You see, I'm not exhaling. I'm just doing this. Oxygen is going in because, thank God, our breath is involuntary and it does it on its own, or we would all die, right? But it's also voluntary, which is not a freak of nature.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting because it's a good time to talk about myself. But when I did not breathe through my nose till I was around 16. So it was an adenoid problem or something like that, but I was always mouth breathing, and like I couldn't catch my breath all the time. And even though I was swimming all the time, I had a harder time holding my breath. It was like my breath was a big issue in my life till recently. Even I had to create a certain type of meditation because the focus on breath was actually incredibly distracting to me. So I'm not as healthy as you think. I'm just saying. I'm just let you know that I could breathe for a minute, but that's about it. No, I'm not saying that's about it, but it's resonating what you're saying with the idea of breathing. So I guess I'm having a hard time making the connection between the breath work and the therapeutic process. How does, so we're doing the breath work, we open up, we start seeing maybe our patterns, we start seeing, our inner self.
Before we even start,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, before we start looking at patterns, before we start looking at inner stuff, before we want to get the memories, we want to get people to breathe. We want to get them back to their original organic process of bringing breath into the body, into the stomach, into the heart, and to just get them breathing again. Once they're breathing, once they're not afraid of their own breath, they're not afraid of what will come up when they breathe, they're not afraid to connect to themselves, then we can go into the process of opening them up and doing other things, right? Which is what I very much encourage therapists. I tell therapists all the time, not every client is ready to do a breathwork session. Not every client should do a breathwork session. It's not the magic solution for everybody, but every client needs to breathe. A client that's not breathing is not really integrating, not processing. A child that's not breathing can't learn. Now, let me explain to you the science behind it. Right? When we're not breathing fully, our brain activates. Our brain thinks we're in danger. Because what happens when we're in danger? We start rapid breathing, we start breathing fast, the body shuts down, and we're in the fight, the survival mode, right? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, right?
Right.
So when we're not breathing, the message your brain is getting is we're danger, 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 danger.
What's fawn? Sorry.
Fawn is...
What's fawn?
Fawn is when you kind of fawn all over somebody, and a lot of times survivors are drawn to try to placate the people that abuse them.
To please them.
To please them
That's
because
where
they're still
codependency
so
comes in.
afraid.
Yeah.
So make a profession about helping addicts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Or
yeah.
I'll be really good. I don't cause any trouble. I
Right.
don't cause any harm. I make sure everyone's happy. I become the parentified child. Like life is really...
I just wanted to, fawn is, I'm the fawn. So
Right.
I'll take the fawn.
So many of us are the
Yes.
Never heard the fawn before. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
The other ones I
yeah.
heard.
Right. It's a little
right.
bit newer.
It's newer.
It is newer.
All right, gotcha. Okay, so the breathing is, sorry. I didn't mean to
I
cut
just
you off.
recently heard this, saying I'm the fawn. I recently heard this powerful piece that, children that go through traumatic childhoods, they choose either attachment or authenticity. So some kids will choose attachment, so they'll become really good kids, so that they're loved by their parent. And then we have those children who choose authenticity. They're like, no, this is not okay. I'm not putting up with this. And they start acting out and becoming rebellious, and they don't necessarily get the attachment because their parents hate them for it. But they're true. They're going to be true to themselves, and they're not going to give in. And there's a lot of courage in that too. So when you're saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to cut you off for a minute because I want to know what made you get into all this. You're also, I know Trish forever, so now
What made me get into which part of all
you
this?
going deeper and deeper. Some people just need to know the answer, like what's driving you to want to know, like go deeper and deeper, like into healing. Everybody's breathing. Jesus. Just kidding. Jesus has nothing to do with this.
It's a good question, actually.
Wrong religion.
So you're asking me, let me understand the question, because otherwise I can go on for 3 hours.
Sorry.
So the question you're actually asking me is, what got me into this journey, or why do I keep going deeper?
Okay, so I'm assuming they're the same. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, there's certain people. I say some people. I went to graduate school, and they, the wounded healer. They go in. They wanna help people, but like they're good. They're helping. They got their private practice. They have their methodology. They work with the people they work with. They move on with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Trishes of the world, and me as well. I'm also like that. And now I'm meeting you, where it's almost like an obsession. It's almost like an idealism. Like it's not enough to be doing just that. And now the question got much broader. But the idea is like, what is driving you to go to not only be the helper, but also like go and like learn more and go further, because a lot of these are very like cutting edge, new age type stuff.
Yeah.
You could have just stopped. Like what's driving?
Yeah, I think it's a really nice question that you're asking. I'm saying nice because there are two parts to it.
Well, good questions and nice questions.
Yeah. So it's like,
now I'm in trouble because if you don't give me a comment on a question, I think it's a dumb question.
I think this is really, I think there are two parts to it. There is the part where, I had tremendous healing from incredible people in my life, and me going out there and doing this work and being there for others, it feels like a calling, and it also is like me passing the torch. Like I've had people be this for me, and I know what it feels like to have someone hold space for my experience and for my process and believing in me. And so I always say this, that everything I learned from my therapist in my therapy room. And then I just went out and learned and put theory to practice, right? But really, it's my deep experience of my own healing. Now, having said that, on my journey through my own healing, it wasn't that I was obsession to learn more. It didn't feel enough. Like my own deepening kept happening, where I was like, okay, so now that I got this, like, why this? And now that this is happening, so what about this? So all my training is really on the same track. Like, I know that I with tremendous respect to CBT and DBT and all those things, they work amazing. I'm like completely broken when it comes to that. Like the language, the whole, it doesn't work for me because it's too up here, right? So I don't train in that. I don't train in any of those stuff, even though I think it's incredible. And for some people, that's the way to go, right? For me, working with a body, working with a mind, working with, I remember way back when I was working through my own traumas, and this is before somatic therapy became so popular. And I had, my therapist is like, God bless her soul. I owe her my life, right? And I remember I was telling her that, like I said, like I'm talking about everything and I'm working through it, but why am I still feeling things so strongly inside? And why does it still trigger me so much? And I remember, but she put out a paper. I'm going to show you on that tissue paper. Whatever, I'll describe it to you. She pulled out a paper and she said, I want to show you something. And again, she's incredible, but again, old school, right? She's, graduated in 1979, right? I know that because that's the year I was born. But anyway, so she shows me this paper and she says, I just gave you my age, but okay.
I'm figuring it out.
Yeah. So, and she tells me,
I'm also older.
Yeah. So she tells me, you see this, see this paper? She folds it up and she says, I'm going to open it. And no matter what I'm going to do, there's always going to be a line on this paper. And that's the symptoms you're describing. And how about if you just make peace with the fact that even though you're doing much better and you're healing from your trauma, there's always going to be that residual, that part that's there, like a scar. And in the moment, it felt okay. I was like, all right, I guess so. But I resigned to it because this is it. There was nothing else to go with. And then at some point I started doing EMDR, and I was working with also a beautiful, incredible therapist, but this is again before somatic therapy was so popular. And I was doing EMDR, and I was working with this therapist who was a real specialist, and I was doing sessions with her, and I kept having seizures in the middle of a session. Like I would start to shake and do like that. And she would like, stop. Okay, ground, feet on the floor, do all the right things because she's being responsible. And at some point she said to me, look, I can't work with you. This is dangerous. Go see a doctor. And I was like so disappointed. I mean, she almost wanted to call an ambulance for me. And I was like, you're not calling an ambulance. I'm fine. I'm walking out of here. Goodbye. But I kind of resigned to the fact that this is it. And then, but I was not happy. You see, this is where I go deeper. I'm like, I'm just not living this way. I love myself enough, and I really believe that I deserve to feel better. And I'm going to, this makes no sense. There's no way I can live this way. And I remember when I sat into my first somatic training, and Ricky Bernstein, and she started talking, that was like way back, and she started talking about sequencing, how the body releases trauma and starts to shake and tremor. I almost passed out right there. And I'm like, oh my God, that's it. So it was actually good. It was actually wonderful what was happening to me. And so I said, Ricky, we're doing a session. I'm like, I need to feel this. I need to feel the sequencing for once, let my body experience it. And we did a session, and oh my gosh, it was just so incredible. A nice amount of years later, I went back to this therapist with the EMDR, and I said, I need to come talk to you. She's wonderful. She's great. And I told her, I said, do you remember why we stopped working together? And she's like, no, I don't. And I tell her the story. And she's like, oh my gosh, let's replay this again. I can do much better today. Today I know better. And she's like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. And, she didn't let me pay for the session because she felt so bad. But we really didn't know better.
Yeah.
She was an amazing person. And I would go to her again today, but we didn't know better. So this kind of deepening, the way I deepen into my own experiences, what is like, there's nothing I do with my clients that I haven't experienced for myself first. It's through my experience when I see there's an opening and I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. So like, if I can do it, other people can do it too. And then I go out and I study it and I want to learn it and I bring it to my clients. And technically we can only take our clients as far as we've gone. And I've gone to pretty far places, and I think it's great. I think it's really amazing. At this point right now, I went even further than with the breath. But again, I think breath is like the underlying thing for everything. I think that whatever you're doing, bring the breath in.
It's got to be part of.
It's got to be part of everything.
It's interesting. Something you're saying really. A friend of mine, likes to find healing. He's searching and searching and searching. He tries all these things, and I guess I was frustrated a while back, and I ended up having to apologize to him. But I was like, maybe you're just a little broken. Maybe it's all right. Maybe just be all right with who you are and be fine.
Or maybe he believes he can be better.
And then I went and apologized to him. It was after I had this thought that addicts are right. Not that he's an addict, but that our soul says
I can do better.
That we could. That we are allowed to have everything. We are allowed to be fully healed. And I really appreciate you sharing all that you shared. Yeah. I will say that one of the things that my pushback that I get sometimes when I share the idea of we are already better and that our deeper soul is fine, or our inner self or whatever it is. One of the pushbacks I get very often, and I'm going to try it out with you guys, is that it seems like you're not validating the amount of trauma and pain that I'm in by saying I'm already better. You're skipping all the steps and all the pain.
But I can hear that.
That's the pushback. I don't mind hearing it.
I can hear that. If you would have said to me when I was in the throes of my trauma and I couldn't breathe, if you would have told me then, you're already better, I'd be like, you know what? I didn't feel better. Don't tell me I'm better if I'm not feeling better.
It seems insensitive.
It seems like you don't understand, like you don't get it. Like you don't get it. That's what it feels like. So I don't know if I would tell someone, you are already healed, you're already better. I think I might ask them, what's getting in the way of you feeling better? That's kind of helping them create dual awareness. I am not sick. I am dealing with something that makes me feel like I'm not okay. right? Because to kind of like create separation between you and what you're experiencing. So if you might say to somebody, like, what's getting in the way of you feeling better? Then they can become an observer. Then they can go into their parts and they can say, oh, women, there's something between me and my full existence, right? And then you have what to work with. By completely dismissing that, it's not true. It's like, it's not about true or not true. Doesn't resonate.
Right. Trish, what do you think? This is...
I
I never
think,
seen you so quiet for so long.
well, my teacher's here.
Teachers, he's so quiet for so long.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be insensitive, but I think,
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah,
by the way.
sorry
Just
about
want
that,
you
Sonny.
know.
No, I get your
I'm making
intention.
YouTube videos of it.
No, I understand. I understand
but I
your
appreciate
thought
it. I
process.
appreciate
I
the
understand your
feedback.
intention.
We're not disagreeing. It's just
no,
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
disagreeing.
And I think that we need to kind of separate your intention versus how the words come out. Your intention is correct, but the way the words are being used, it doesn't come across. It doesn't come across. I can feel what you mean. I can sense what you're saying, but it's not coming across in the words that you're using. And we humans we need language to experience life. So when the language doesn't align with our experience, it's like you feel missed.
No, I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah,
I actually was looking for a better way to describe it, so I appreciate that. I really do.
You didn't used to say it that way, actually.
What did I say?
Just
there?
as somebody who's known you forever.
That's just
you-
you're getting
you-
meaner. It's just like, you know what? You're really getting meaner.
You used to
What did
say
I say?
that you believed that everybody had it in them to heal themselves.
That's true.
And that resonated really well for me and for the people that you spoke to.
Wow, that like literally brings tears to me. Look, that's so true.
Yeah.
I still say that.
Good.
And that, yeah, that's so powerful.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah.
you see now, if we go back to what you asked me before, me knowing that, me believing that I had it within
Right.
me to move through whatever it is, and I'm not gonna get like heebie-jeebie on you, but it was pretty deep what I was experiencing, right? But my belief that I can really work through it is what encouraged me and motivated me to search for more, to stretch more, to allow myself to experience more, and then to bring more to my clients and to the people I work with. So what she's saying, you're saying those words are that's a gem. Like, I believe in you. I believe in the power of healing. I believe you can come to yourself. I believe that trauma is not going to get the better of you, that you are greater than what happened to you.
Right.
That's a whole different thing. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Aren't you glad I remembered?
It's in the end of my bio. I don't know if you know that. At the end of my bio, I end with
Yes,
that. I don't know if you
yes.
remember that. Yeah, no, I hear it. I think that I, at some points, get philosophical, and it's not really I like leave the therapeutic mindset of talking to someone and explaining that there is an inner core that is fine. And then I'll just say that in these ideas, and it'll hurt people. So glad you got that.
Yeah, but you.
But I think they need a little pain. It's good for them.
They got
Because they don't have
plenty.
enough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was saying, pain is part of life.
Yeah, you know what they say: the road to hell is paved with good intention.
Right.
Yeah, but we mean well. But I think that, especially for people who've been so missed by so many people in their life, to feel missed when they're with people who they trust and they feel get it, like the people you work with, they know you get it.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't be doing all this if you didn't get it.
Right.
So when someone who gets it doesn't get it, it's frustrating.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I know why everybody's all annoyed at me about that.
Because they believe in you. They believe you can do better.
Maybe you see some of the nasty comments I get online. It's not everybody believes in me.
The nasty comments shows more about them than about you.
No, I like the nasty comments though, because in real life I try to make everybody happy, and like online, You can?
You're killing it for them. They're going to
And-
stop giving you nasty comments. They're going to
No,
make you
no.
happy.
They'll get upset about what I'm saying now. They'll be like, that's stupid. Yeah. Okay, I guess the one thing that I'm not getting.
One of the things that you're not getting.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is terrible.
Words.
You were a teacher at one point in your life?
I was.
Okay, I got it.
You figured that one out.
19 years.
I'll tell you a joke.
One of the best things in my life.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
To
To
whom? That's it.
I'm slow.
Sorry, that's a teacher joke. It's a.
I wasn't that kind of teacher.
It's a,
I don't know. I can get it.
No, just the way you corrected me was like very teacherish. It was great.
I'm a stickler for words.
Yeah.
I really believe our
No,
words
so-
hold power. So
they're important.
In the English language, when you say, you can never say to who. It's to whom. It's
okay.
it's one
That
of
was the
those.
fix.
Yeah. I want you to know that the reason I stop it, I do this to my clients all the time. Our words have so much power, and they hold such a strong energy, such a strong frequency, that I'm a stickler for words. Like literally, like I will stop and say like this. It's just like, let's speak in a way that's Anyway, but I was teasing you now.
No,
This
it's
was just
fine.
me teasing you. But anyway.
I literally told you a joke back.
Okay.
The what I'm not getting is one of the things that I'm not getting is that what am I supposed to expect going into like what is actually happening in this breath work? Am I going to start shaking? Am I going to hallucinate?
Okay.
I had one real breathwork experience in my life, and I started seeing myself go too far, and I actually stopped myself because I was surrounded with staff members that I didn't feel comfortable going. And, like, it was my staff, so I felt like, I'll do this in a private session type of thing. Like, and I actually pulled out, but I didn't know like what is to be expected in this. You're talking about it as an idea, but if I never went to breathwork, like, do we have to go to experience this, or or can you just explain it?
So it's a good question. I'm gonna answer you because I know you've asked it a few
Nailing it
times.
with
Let me
these
finally
questions.
get it. Let me finally
Jeez.
get the question, the answer right. Okay. So I'm gonna talk very technical
Okay.
because that way you get the answer, and then we can discuss it if you'd like. So we're not talking about working with a breath. We're talking about actual breathwork session. So what can someone expect in a breathwork session? So we like when people come in with an intention of like, what would I like to experience? What do I want clarity on? What do I want to work through? Where am I stuck in my life? And why am I choosing to come to a breathwork session? So that's how I work it. Some people just want to do it recreationally. Some people want to do it to build endurance. Because I'm a therapist and I do it therapeutically, so I can only talk from that lens, right? What brings you here today? Same way a client comes in, what brings you here today? I'm stuck in my life here, there, and everywhere. Okay, great. We go into the session. There are different things that you can expect in a breathwork session. So breathwork doesn't only work on your emotions. Breathwork works on your mind, mentally, physically, and emotionally, right? So you can expect shifts to happen mentally, physically, and emotionally. Some people have all three shifts happening for them. Some people find that it's only a mental process where they get clarity and they get the thoughts and their memories. Some people find that they have a deep emotional experience where they get in touch with emotions that are trapped in their body for many years. It's sitting there, it's making them sick, they're not feeling well, and it's just all these trapped emotion from childhood, ancestral trauma, stuff that we picked up from our parents. Some of the things that we release in a breathwork session is not even your own stuff. Stuff, therapists have a lot they absorb from their clients, a lot of stress, so that you can have an emotional release. And there's a physical release because the nervous system, the body holds so much of the trauma. So when we have an experience like that, people might experience tremoring, shaking, they get hot, they get cold, they feel tingling, all kind of different physical sensations, right? So we want clients to know to expect this, that you might have physical experiences, tingling, hot, cold, shaking, tremoring, tetany, where they get like these cramps, like their hands cramp up or their legs cramp up, all normal parts of breath work, right? Then we have the emotional release. Some people laugh, some people cry, some people bawl their eyes out, some people scream if they have a scream that's stuck in them. People yawn a lot, all different kind of emotional ways of discharging energy. And then we have the which part? The mental aspect, which is, I need clarity on something. I want to understand something. Like sometimes people come into the session and they're like, I feel like A, B, and C, and they walk away and they're like, wow, I just got a whole new perspective on this. Like I understand myself better. I see where it's coming from. I know why I'm doing this. It's clarity, right? Now, once they go into the breathwork session, it depends what kind of breathwork model you're working with. Every breathwork facilitator and model. We have holotropic, rebirthing, psychedelic breathwork, shamanic breathwork, all different kind of breathworks, right? Every model follows a different protocol, but there are two things that are the same for all. There's one thing that's the same for every breathwork. It's like you're breathing in a specific pattern to create healing and to reach higher state of consciousness. You're breathing in a specific pattern that's not a natural breath. It's not the way you want to breathe normally. and for every method of breathing is different. Some of them will tell you to breathe through your nose and out through your nose. Some will tell you to breathe from your nose out through your mouth. Some is in and out through the mouth. There's the conscious connected breathing. The breath I work with is the conscious connected breathing, which is the rebirthing breath work by Leonard Orr. He's the one that developed that. And the way we breathe is very different, and the goal of the breathing is different. So normally when we breathe to relax, right? We have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So we're breathing to relax the system. Like we tell our clients, take a breath. With breath awareness, that's what we're doing. When our client is activated and we say, just notice your breath, that's all parasympathetic. We're trying to calm the breathing down, trying to calm the body down. When we're doing this breath work, our goal, our intention is to really access trapped energies, trapped emotions. We're kind of going to go into the activation and come out on the other side, right? So, and the concept behind it is we got to feel it to heal it. We got to really go in there and have a corrective experience. So when you're working with a facilitator that understands your process and holds space for you, and you're not alone in your pain and trauma, then that in itself is so healing. And then you're able to go in and meet your inner child or meet that child that experienced the trauma and show up in that pain and have that good cry that you've needed for so long. There's a very big difference between I'm shedding a tear and I'm like screaming out in pain because I'm re-experiencing that. And that energetic release, that and having someone again be there with you, which is the antidote to trauma, right? Trauma happens because we're alone and there's nobody there. And here we have someone guiding us through it and staying with us through our pain, through our tears, whatever it is, right?
Is it always a good idea to feel it to heal it? Like, I mean, is there a downside to all this?
Again, we want to do this in a way that's contained, which is why I developed what I developed. Because a lot of breathwork facilitators will just take you through catharsis. I don't believe in catharsis.
I don't like catharsis.
I don't either. So I'm not talking about catharsis. I'm not talking about kicking, screaming, banging. Even though sometimes people do it, I don't encourage it, and I will get them to stop because I want them to have a somatic experience. I want it to be in titration. I want them to breathe softly and go inside and experience it and let your body organically discharge it. So I will sometimes have people in the beginning who will like scream and yell and move very strong and all that. And I find that very often it feels good in the moment, but there's no long-term healing to that. Like true healing happens organically. Anything real is slow. You plant a seed, it sprouts, it grows, it turns into a flower. Everything that's natural should be a soft, gentle process.
So
right?
it sounds like if you're not trained well, you could do a lot of damage.
Yeah. I had
what kind of damage could happen?
Well, people, first of all, for starters, you can open people up to experiences they're not ready to look at and not ready to face.
Sure.
You can damage can be as simple as not preparing the client. Like what I just shared with you now about the physical, the emotional, the mental.
Mm-hmm.
I teach the therapist that you do never, ever do breathwork with a client before telling them everything they can expect in the session. Tell them the whole process. Tell them what's going to happen, right? I've had people who were very traumatized by working with therapists who didn't do that. And I really believe there are so many wonderful, incredible facilitators. They're not therapists, people who really, they mean good, they want to do good, and they're doing a beautiful job holding space for clients, for people who need to do breath work. And the average person can do breath work with anybody because it's not dangerous. You're working with your breath, you know. But for those who have trauma and for those who have deep suppressed and repressed emotions and memories, they're taking a risk. They're taking a risk because you need to know what you're holding space for, right? And those clients need to work with a professional. They need to work with someone who understands what they're experiencing, who understands somatics, who understands what's happening to their body. You know, I say this story a lot. When I was taking my training, and again, it was a beautiful training, but I remember there was a woman there. Now, I went with my friend. We were the only 2 therapists in a room of 24 people, right? Everyone else was just people coming to be breathwork facilitators. And again, there's a place for that. There's absolutely a place for that. And I remember there was a woman in the group that after her session, she was shaking a lot, and she was very scared. And she told the teacher, she says, "I'm shaking, I can't calm down, I can't calm down." And the teacher was like, "You're fine." And she
Sounds like me.
yeah. And she's like, "But
You're
I'm not."
fine. Stop
She's
it.
like,
You're
"But
already
I'm
bad."
not, but I'm not fine. I'm not fine." And I'm watching her and I know exactly what's going on because I'm somatically trained. But I'm not, it's not my class and I'm not, you know. So I'm just sitting there and I'm like not saying anything. And suddenly I'm looking at this woman and my heart breaks for her. She's having a full-blown panic attack because something's happening to her and she thinks she's having a seizure and she's going to die. She doesn't know what's going on. So I just turned to her and I told her, "What you're experiencing is actually wonderful. Your body's releasing, your nervous system. This is called sequencing. This is actually good. See if you can just lean into it and don't fight it. Your body's discharging." And she looked at me and she's like, "Wow, that's what it feels like. It feels like a discharge." And I said, "It's wonderful. It's really good for you. Just allow it." Right? Now, just that, this little snippet, it could have been so traumatic for her. She could have walked away and saying, "I had a panic attack in the middle of breath work. I went crazy. I thought I was dying." That's trauma. That's difficult. You don't want to experience that. And that could be prevented if you prepare the client beforehand that this might come up. Or if the client is experiencing and you know what you're looking at and you say, "This is great. Just let your body shake it out. It's wonderful. You're safe. I'm right here with you." Right? So
training is very important.
yeah.
Okay, there's another little pet peeve of mine, so I'm going to ask a question on it. You know, because I think I'm always shocked how much money we have to spend to get better. What could we, you know, if someone does this training, is there a form of self-breathing or self-help that we take home? Could we do this in a group? Like, how would this, you know, I feel like sometimes like a lot of the healing we do, it's like kind of for the privileged, like it's a lot of money and it's hard to get to, and getting into a therapist is like impossible now. And so when I think about this, I think, how could this really heal the world? Like how could what type of self is this something we could take home, or do we always need a facilitator? I guess that's the question.
So I'll answer the question. I was about to tell you it's a great question, but I'm not going to say that, but it's a great question.
You can keep saying it.
Yeah.
Now when you don't say it, I get
No, you're
nervous.
asking really
Now I
good.
get
No,
nervous.
you're asking good questions, and I appreciate that. You know, some people just say like, "But what this?" But no, you're asking very targeted questions, which I think is very helpful for anyone listening to this, because these are probably questions that a lot of people have, right? So I teach my clients to breathe on their own. I teach them ways of breathing, right? I'll answer for myself. I could do breath work on my own. I can literally right now I could do it in the grocery. I could do it wherever I am. When I feel anxious or upset or very stressed out, I know I'm not breathing. And I will right away not do a breath work session on the floor, but just literally take my breath in and just notice myself slowing down. Right? Everyone should learn this. We should teach it to our children. We should teach it as part of the curriculum in school. Like this should be like, so absolutely, clients can do breath work and they can learn how to breathe on their own. However, However, the conscious connected breathing in this kind of way could very quickly trigger people and take them into trance and trigger memories and emotions that are very deep and complicated. So when you're doing this kind of breathing, this is why I think we need to learn different ways of breathing. There's a lot of ways of breathing that we can do on our own. And I teach it to the clients, I teach it to the therapists. But when it comes to deep breathing in this kind of a way, to take someone into trance state in this kind of way, you want someone to hold space. Could people do it on their own? Yeah, when they're healthy enough and strong enough. But I've had people who've tried it on their own and then they have a hard time coming out of it in a way that feels complete. So for myself, for example, if I just want to do a breathwork session, I'll do it myself. But if I want to go really deep, I get a friend to hold space for me. I get someone who knows what they're doing to hold space, to play the music and all
Called
that.
a trip sitter.
Yeah, kind
Different
of.
world.
Kind of. But there's a lot you can do on your own. If you teach your clients to breathe, forget breathwork. Let's leave breathwork out of it for a minute. If you can get your clients to breathe and be connected to their breath, you're giving them a gold mine. You're giving them this is like a gift for clients to just stay with the breath, stay with breath awareness. Just notice that you're breathing. That it's like the best grounding tool. It's a magical grounding tool. You're standing in the grocery store, the line is from here to Kazoo. You feel like you're never going to get out of here. You're stressed out. Nobody has to know what you're doing.
No, I definitely do this. I consider it a meditation, but
yeah,
it's definitely
like even like I prepare my clients like before like the holidays, right? Holidays are very stressful. Very stressful. Spending time with your family of origin.
Holidays?
My goodness, we go back to family of origin. Who was the one that said it? Rumi or Ramdas? That if you want to know how far you've gone in your healing.
It was Ramdas. No, if you want to know if you're enlightened, go home and spend the week with your family.
There you go. Right. Yes. Yeah.
That's Ramdas.
Yeah, but also like if you want to know how far you've come, So we know that even if you have the most loving family, being around family day in, day out, every single day could be very difficult and very triggering and very stressful, even in a good way, good stress, right? We're happy, we love our family, but it's tiring, right? So I teach them how to do that, how to even like you're sitting around a table and you have somebody difficult by the table who's making you so annoyed. They don't even have to know what you're doing. You can just right? Just regulate yourself. Just stay regulated. If you're regulated, whatever happens around you.
They'll be like, there goes Gitty, breathing again.
They don't even know I'm doing it. They don't even know I'm doing it.
Here she goes with the breathing.
I sometimes do it to my children, right? When I see they're very stressed out, I'll co-regulate them through my breath.
You just start doing it, they start
doing it, and I just catch their breath. They don't copy. They don't even know what they're doing.
Right.
They just suddenly you see them doing this. And you're like, all right, there we go. Just take a breath. Bring oxygen in. Relax your system. Now, I want to say something about what I started saying before, because this is the important piece, is that when we're breathing to activate, then we're doing this conscious connected breathing. And the purpose of it is it's like to clean the house up, to go in deep, shovel it up, and then come back. And whenever we take someone through a breathwork session, we want to make sure that we're bringing them back. The processing and integration at the end of session should be like you're diving deep, bring them back to the surface again. So that's how I design my breath work. It's a very clean process of we go in, we come back up, right? Now that's sympathetic breathing. We're activating the nervous system. And then we bring them back to a calm nervous system. When you want to breathe with someone to calm them, that's called the parasympathetic breathing. It's going to look different. You see, a sympathetic breath will be like deep inhale and a very shallow exhale, right? We're taking in more oxygen than we're letting out.
Right.
A parasympathetic breath is a longer exhale. So we're like, the longer the exhale, the more you're calming your system. So if you think about calming breath, right? You inhale 4, exhale 8, right? What's that all about? Is the longer exhale, that gets the parasympathetic online and we calm down.
Right.
So it's good to know that, like what you want. What's your goal? What's your intention? What are you going in for? If you're coming to me, you tell me, I just want to be really calm, I'll teach you longer breath. If you tell me, I want to really clear out something deep and powerful, or I'm ready to go deeper in my healing, I have the courage to go in, or a lot of clients, they really want more. They're just done with suffering. They're like, I want to understand this. I want to clear it out. I want to feel better. And they have the courage to go really deep and do that. Then you're doing it the whole day. You're doing the breathwork session. So just want to point that out.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two more questions. One, I want to ask Trish, what questions am I not asking? I'm missing a question here. What's the question? What else should I be asking here that I'm missing?
I think you asked good questions.
I know that already.
Okay.
Told
Just
me.
double checking.
Some of them were like beautiful questions.
Beautiful questions. I don't know. I think, I'm thinking about the booklet and all the different things that, we do. I'm also trying to think about it, as you said before, from somebody who's listening.
Yeah.
One thing I think that you said in terms of frequency, which you asked also, for somebody who's in therapy, maybe every 6 weeks they might want to do it, but we trust that they are going to know, having been through a breathwork session, when they feel ready to do it again.
But I'm so worried. I mean, I'll go back to that question because I know many people that are like, I need to do it again this week. I got a phone call from someone yesterday, and he's like, I'm doing so much trauma work, and I'm doing ketamine, and I'm doing this, and trauma. I'm dealing with all my trauma, and finally it's coming out, and I'm like, dude, slow down.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't do
gentle.
that. You're
the idea is we're
there.
shooting for a gentle
I get worried
process.
about like trusting yourself about
because what happens. You know what happens because when they finally feel like it's moving, they're like, I'm gonna ram it and I'm gonna be healed.
Right.
And I think what people need to realize is that healing is a lifelong process. You're not gonna wake up one day and say, got it, done, I'm done. There's no done. It's more about how embodied are you? How that's why I keep saying like real healing is about being able to tolerate our emotions. Like people say, I want to feel better. And I'm like, no, you want to get better at failing. Right? And it's not my line. This is, this is the issue we have.
Whose line is it? I want to quote you.
So no, don't quote me, but so Michael Brown quotes it in his book, but it's like really it's a comment,
I like
it's like, it's not about feeling better, it's about getting better at feeling. So I read about it in Michael Brown's book. He has the presence process, which is a very powerful process, which is a great thing for clients who want to start a breathwork process and they can't afford it and they can't go to therapy. And that's a nice way to start. He really takes you through a beautiful process of just being present with your breath. So yeah, there's where my
okay. So next, I'm adding one question to my two questions. If someone wanted to find out more about this, where would they go to like find out more about this? I mean, it could be reaching out to you, but is there like are there books to read? Is there
Google books?
Just Google away.
Yeah, there's so many great. There's a lot of it. Today it became so popular that it's like the Google search for breathwork has gone up tremendously. People are wanting to heal. People are wanting to connect to themselves, connect to their essence. This has become a very, very, very popular, and a lot of people out there doing it. I just very much encourage people to be careful with who you're doing it with. Know what your intention is. Like you say, some people say, like, I just want to do it. Like somebody would call me and say, I want to do a session tomorrow again. And I'm like, tell me what you're hoping to accomplish. They think that they're going to do another session and then they'll be done. And then they come back and they're so disappointed because they're not done. Because there is no done. It's more about deepening. It's more about like, what did you get out of the session? Yeah, so I would not do it. If a client called me and said, I want to do one session on top of another, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Unless I agree that this is the best way in. But some people have a hard time talking a session. Breathwork is a beautiful way to go in because it's no talk. You can have a beautiful, powerful experience without saying one word out of your mouth. It's like therapy without talking.
Well, this was like ridiculously enlightening for me, and I really like it because I've dabbled in this world, even in the podcast, asking questions about breathwork, but I never really got this deep, and I really appreciate it. I hope other people really appreciate it too. I always finish the podcast. Trish knows this. Maybe she forgot. With the rooftop question, we'll start with Trish, but it's like if you could yell to the world something, some message that you'd like the world to know, what's your rooftop yell?
Don't forget integration.
Ooh, I like that. Don't forget.
Don't forget integration.
Don't forget the 40 years in the desert.
You know,
That's how
I
I
was
say it.
thinking before that the reason people come to your sober homes is to integrate what they learned in rehab. And that if they had left rehab and just gone home, it would have been the way you described it before. There was this amazing thing that happened, and then I fell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My way of describing this is that Har Sinai, we spoke to God, we touched the divine, we were there, we reached the pinnacle, and then 40 days later we were serving an idol.
Right.
And what we realized is that we need 40 years. Like we were going to walk straight in. That was the idea.
You needed 40
And
years of
then
integration?
You needed 40 years of integration for a nation. For us, maybe it's a little bit less.
Yeah.
But for a
Yeah.
full nation, they need 40
You
years.
needed 40 years.
But that's what don't forget. And during that integration, they had the hug of the clouds and
That's
the
right.
light of the fire that was leading us. And like those two things were a big part of our integration. I think that's how I see it as a muscle. We're doing a lot of Torah on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Because it all comes back to that.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's
All the wisdom is coming from
yeah,
there.
At the end of the day, it all comes back to that. You know, every time I see it, I'm like fascinated all over again.
And what about you? Rooftop yell. You don't have to yell.
So I like what you're saying about the 40 years. And I think that what I would like to tell people is that when you're in the throes of your pain, it feels like there's no way out. It feels like this is forever, right? But it's not. It's not. There's a way in. And if you can get hurt, you can get healed. It's not a one-way street. And that it's all about coming back inside and having the courage to land back in the body, to land back in your breath, and to know that, like you said, you know, that, but so what's the word you said before? It was so powerful that he says your words.
Which one? The end of my bio? That everybody has it within themselves to heal
everyone,
themselves.
exactly. Everyone has it within themselves to heal. And that there's a way out. There's always a way out. And if you didn't find it yet, keep going. I'm proof that there's a way out. And I will say this again. I'm not done healing, but I feel healed.
I like that.
Yeah. I can
beautiful.
finally say that life is great. 20 years ago, I don't know if I could have said that.
That's
And it's
pretty
not
awesome.
because it's perfect. It's really not. But it's really good. I like the imperfect. It's like it's almost like when a challenge comes and I'm like, all right, here we go, right? And it's like I'm curious about it. And it's like my healing became an enjoyable process versus a gut-wrenching process. It became a process of deepening and growing and it's not so gory anymore. It's a choice. Like 20 years ago, I had no choice. I had to go do what I was doing because my life depended on it. Today, I do what I do because I want to, because I like it. Whenever I go deeper, it's like, wow, that's amazing. I'm fascinated. Let me go even deeper, right? And it's great. It's beautiful when healing becomes a choice.
It's awesome. All right. Thank you so much for coming in. This
Thank
was
you.
amazing. You guys got to eat something.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live anew.